Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to a new episode of the podcast. This is episode 7. We got a jam-filled packed episode as usual. I'll be talking about what I see in college quarterbacks that could become NFL quarterbacks, my Big Ten review through week 2 of the return of the season, and my new discovery of the Bachelorette Fantasy League, Harry Styles music video review, and I'll finish off with a little something about voting, so stick around and find out some more. Your quote of the week. A good shell is hard to find, and a hard shell is good to find. What does that quote mean? Well, depends how you look at it. Sometimes it's okay to be a little hard-headed and kind of stick to your guns and what you think. I mean, sometimes it's a good quality to have depending on when you need to be that kind of way. But this is what it really means. So, as you can tell, Harry Styles said this, but he actually didn't say it. When I was in high school, there was a parody cartoon of Harry Styles in One Directions, and he's out getting tacos, and they ask him, should I get a hard shell or soft shell? And he says, a good shell is hard to find, and a hard shell is good to find. So therefore, he got a hard shell. If you didn't know, it's one of his favorite foods. So a lot of things been going on since last episode. As I mentioned, I was in the process of moving, and I finally did it. As you can see, there's no longer my brick wall thing, which people really like to look at. But I'm excited to be in this new place. I'm not even that far from my old place, about 10, 15 minutes away. I'm a little bit closer to work, too. I'm going to miss my old place. It was a great starter apartment, and everyone was really friendly. I never really had any bad vibes when I lived there. I mean, quiet. It was good. But I was ready to move. I needed kind of a little bit of upgrade and just a little bit of a quieter area. I mean, like I said, the other place wasn't bad or loud, but this place is a good fit, I think. I mean, there's some cool things. The place has a pool, a gym, and a lake. So that's cool. I mean, here's a picture of my neighbors that I got a picture of earlier. As I mentioned, I'm a little bit closer to work, and I'm also closer to the city of Chicago, and I like to go back and visit soon. Especially since it's going to get a little colder soon. I mean, moving can just be a pain in the ass, man. I had to pack, reserve a truck, change the address for my internet and utilities, clean my old place like really good. Then I had to go to the bank to get money orders and cashier checks. And then finding a moving crew was hard, but I had a pretty good crew, and everything was a real smooth process the day of the move. So I was really happy to have everybody help. So before I get talking into sports, I kind of want to address something that's kind of been bugging me. About kind of how I do my show and how I see other people do the show. I don't like it when other people, including myself, kind of have biased opinions. You know, just not having fair judgment on what they see when they watch football games or judge players. When I talk about players or team matchups or comparisons, I would like to make it more as fair as possible. I at least want to mention one positive things from both teams before I can go on and just bash on one team on their performance. I like to keep it as objective as possible. I don't want my personal opinions getting involved too heavily when I'm analyzing games and players. I mean, I just get so caught up in a team that I know best. I just forget how to look at the numbers and the overall picture of the game to get a better picture of what actually happened. I mean, I want to show you something fun, and shutting an entire team out does not make it fun, in my opinion. I will still admire the team that I love when I'm watching them, and I'll still make fun of the team I don't like, but it's all right. I mean, it'll just be out of humor, and I won't let it get in the way of the context of what actually happens. Now we got that out of the way, let's kind of jump into what the real topics of the show are, and I want to talk about college quarterbacks transitioning to the NFL. So I like to think of it as like scouts. NFL scouts want to analyze and their players and like give their teams like the best picture of how these quarterbacks look when they're going to be drafted, because I know there's a handful of quarterbacks like Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, and Sam Ehlinger that need people to analyze them, see what their game can translate to the NFL. First things first, I think scouts like to look at stature. So looking for someone that's tall, like 6'2", 6'3", and above, big and athletic. Big probably because they want to make sure they're less injury prone and athletic, because they can move the ball down the field, either if they're passing or running it. And good decision making. When I think of good decision making, I think of a quarterback that minimizes his turnovers And that's a good game IQ. So they're just so aware of the presence of the game and what's going on that they make smart decisions to keep the game alive. And great pocket presence. Great pocket presence is something where you're in the middle of the play, all these big-ass linemen are about to attack you, and then you're just so aware of your surroundings, and you're able to be comfortable in there so you can still continue looking downfield and figure out who you want to throw it to and follow through with the play. And speaking of falling through the pass is important, because if you throw that ball and you flinch a little bit, it could really change the momentum of the game depending on what the situation is. Just like avoiding flinching and just take the hit if you need to after the pass to make sure the play is good. Great arm is important. That's kind of the big one. And that just means strength and accuracy. If they can throw the ball downfield, then that means they have good chances of making deep ball throws and being accurate. As I mentioned, like minimizing turnovers is important, and that falls along with accuracy. Then something that I think not a lot of quarterbacks understand, even Patrick Mahomes has admit this, just understanding defenses and being able to read them. If you have a good knowledge of what happens on the other side of the ball, I think you have a good understanding of how you can manipulate them and kind of make it more in favor for your offense. And one of my favorite things is quarterbacks with quick releases, because I admire quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers and Dan Marino, where they have these quick, fast releases where that ball can just get out of their hands so quickly. And like really natural too. I don't like see quarterbacks have to lob it and have to muscle through their throws. And when that ball is released, I like to see tight window throws. Those are like NFL level throws. Those are throws where if the receiver has more than one step in the NFL, that's considered a open throw. And if quarterbacks can get the ball in their hands on those tight windows, and the receivers hopefully are experienced enough to catch those, then that's going to look really good for the team and make sure that you guys win some games. And one thing that's really heavy is a trend in dual threats. It seems like, especially the high school level, high school quarterbacks that go into college, they have to be dual threats. And that probably translates the same way when you go to the NFL. When I think of dual threats, I kind of like the balance to be more like 60% passer, 40% runner. Like, yeah, these running quarterbacks are really great, like Lamar Jackson. But at the end of the day, like, defenses can find a way to neutralize that run game. And if you can keep your passing abilities up there, then you can still be a huge threat and still use your legs if you need to when they least expect it. And then there's like other intangibles that are kind of things more internal. One of them is being like a great public speaker, being able to speak professionally at post game conferences. Even if you lose, you still got to still gonna be professional about it and just kind of make sure that you're not letting it get to you. Having great work ethic. Someone I really think is good at that is Joe Burrow. I mean, he wasn't really that great of a quarterback his junior year and before that in college, but then that last year where he really stepped up, it was just because he worked hard. He had great coaching, but he also just worked hard in the offseason. That's something that's what NFL scouts look for, and just someone with a go-getter attitude that's gonna not settle for less. And just being a good leader. People think leaders need to be very vocal and loud, but you don't have to be. Sometimes being a good leader is just how you present yourself. You can be a quiet leader. I know Justin Herbert, who's a rookie, he's kind of a quiet leader, but he's elevating his team in ways. So as long as you just kind of have a good presence to yourself, you can really make a difference. And then a quarterback with big pressure moments and knows how to take them is something to look for as well, because there's going to be a lot of big pressure moments in the NFL, because there's going to be a lot more closer games in NFL versus college games. And then the confidence and swagger is something that kind of it goes along with just being like really not cocky, but just like, I know I'm great, I know what I need to do, and I'm going to keep my spirits up and just kind of keep going, just keep learning the game and not let it get to me. One thing I think really differentiates from good and great quarterbacks that want to be in the NFL is how well they can do with little. Quarterbacks like Russell Wilson, he doesn't have the best receivers at times, but then he still finds a way to elevate their game and win games as well. That's something that's like, wow, not every quarterback can do that in the NFL. So that's something I like to look for in a quarterback. And then one thing I guess is a big thing is a big juicy butt. If you have a big juicy butt, you look good in the NFL. That's what my girlfriend told me. So let's take a quick break, and I'll get into the Big Ten and what's going on there. All right, now we're back. 1 second, I'm going to get a drink of this Dr. Pepper. Man, dude, I swear, Dr. Pepper is like the elite soda. Someone once told me like Dr. Pepper was spicy. I'm like, it's kind of a weird way to think of it, but it's a little bit of spicy. I mean, it makes sense. That's why it's Dr. Pepper. I like to think of it as like barbecue soda. But enough of Dr. Pepper. Let's get on to the Big Ten. The Big Ten is finally back. And I don't know, like college football is just a little bit more exciting just because there's more games to watch on the weekends now. So I'll just kind of go over some handful of teams that I've been kind of paying attention to. If I don't talk about your team, sorry. I mean, that's all I can really say. But I'm sure I'll talk about them eventually down the stretch. So let's talk about my favorite team, of course, in the Big Ten, Wisconsin Badgers. The Badgers only played one game so far through the second week of Big Ten. That first game, it was against Illinois where they whooped them, and this was the debut premiere of Graham Mertz. Graham Mertz is one of Wisconsin's most highly recruited quarterbacks in program history, and he tied multiple records, and he had a really breakout performance. He had 5 TDs, he only missed 1 pass, and I think he has the best passer rating game so far in the entire college season. Unfortunately, if people that don't know, Wisconsin is a very COVID-heavy state. They get a lot of cases down there, and he got COVID, and then more players got COVID, and then the head coach got COVID. And they got so bad that they were supposed to play Nebraska on Saturday, and they had to cancel because they had too many cases. Like, I don't know what to expect because even their backup quarterback got COVID. I'm not sure who's going to step in and play. And the weird thing about the Big Ten is, unlike the other conferences, you have to sit out for 21 days versus 10 days. That's crazy. That's 3 whole weeks. I feel like I don't have a problem with it. I just wish it was just the same across all conferences. It's just a little inconsistent. They may have to cancel another game next week because we just don't know what's going to happen since all these players are getting sick. But like Wisconsin, they still look really good, and it's just unfortunate that they miss games because if they miss enough games, they may not be eligible for any like big games like the Big Ten title game, or if they're that good, which I don't think they are, they might not be eligible for the college playoffs. Then let's get on to the Iowa Hawkeyes. I mean, everyone knows I'm not a big Hawkeye fan. I think they're like cockroaches. You just can't get rid of them. But they had their first loss against, I believe it was Purdue. I think it was Purdue, and it was a close game. The quarterback looked better than I expected that game. But then the second game happened, and then it was against Northwestern. The Hawkeyes had a real good strong start. I mean, they had 7. They got 7 points within the first drive, I believe. It was a turnover and then led to a 7-yard pass for a touchdown. I mean, it was real good for the first drive of the game. I didn't really have a problem with the defense. The defense looked pretty strong on Saturday. I mean, they held it to a point where the offense could get to a lead, but there was just no points in the second half, which is not good. And here's a problem I have is they had 50 passes. That's a little overboard, I think. They need to utilize the run game a little bit better. But then again, the run game wasn't looking that strong either. But that's nothing against the Hawkeyes. Like, Northwestern looks really good this year. I mean, they were better than I expected. They were better than what I expected. The game was winnable, but there's the 2 interceptions that their quarterback had were just, one was a bad read, and one was just bad placement onto the wide receiver's hands. In those kind of situations, especially the last minute of the game when the last interception happened, that's going to cost them the game. And I think they could have won that game if they didn't have that bad interception. And Iowa so far is not super astronomical on their stats. 48th in pass offense, 31st in pass defense, 26th in rush defense, but 69th in rush offense. 88th in scoring, but their defense is 27th. So what I'm looking at is just like their defense is looking really strong. I think they need experience a little bit more in the run game, just because it's just not working that well so far in the pass game. I mean, you have a first-year quarterback. I mean, he's not going to be great off the bat, unless you have Graham Mertz, because Graham Mertz looked really good off the bat. So let's talk about the real Big Ten leaders. Ohio State. I mean, I watched the Nebraska game in week 1. The defense looked a little slow the first half, but they were picking it up. But Nebraska was looking pretty good too. They had a pretty good run game that game too. And then I watched the Penn State game, and I think Penn State was probably their hardest challenger, and they put a number on them, honestly. Justin Fields, the quarterback for Ohio State, he's on a mission, man. He wants to prove all the haters wrong after he lost the semifinal game for the championship title, and I think he's trying to go for the Natty and the Heisman. So I'm excited to see what he has in store. You can't underestimate Maryland, because that's who they play next or sometime in November. Because Tua Tagovailoa's brother, he is looking pretty good. He had 5 TDs against Minnesota on Friday night, so he might be up to something. So Ohio State cannot underestimate them. I mean, just looking at Ohio State's stats, their run game's looking really good. They're 17th in rush offense, and they're 4th in scoring offense, and their scoring defense is 19th. So they're looking pretty solid right now, and not a lot of teams can say they're like that. And then Indiana. I've been saying for months that they've been on the rise. I tell you, I saw them play last year. I just saw a huge improvement year over year, and I'm seeing that improvement again this year. They won their game on Saturday and had this funny 8-ladder play that ended up being an 85-yard TD, but they had to reverse it because one of the pitches was a forward pass. But you got to look out for them because they're looking pretty hot. Right now they're 16th in pass defense, and their scoring defense it's a little low, but they'll get up there, man. I think they're one of those kind of a little bit. They're playing good. They just need to touch them a few things, especially in the rush offense, because they're barely running the ball, and I think they could definitely utilize that too. Then another team that I've been following is Northwestern. As I mentioned, they're a lot better than people expect them to be. One, they dominated Maryland. They have a great run defense. They allowed 64 yards that game against Maryland, and their run offense had 4 TDs and 325 yards that game. It was just vicious, man. I was real surprised. And then, as you mentioned, but they just look good against Iowa. I think their run game is definitely their biggest suit. They're 14th in pass defense, 10th in rush offense, and their rush defense is better too. They're second right now in college football. Overall, I think their defense is one of the best defenses in the Big Ten. I just wanted to see them get some more yards off the passing game, and I think they'll be a pretty good standing to represent the Big Ten West. Is there any really changes in my predictions at the end of the season? Kind of. I think Ohio State's still going to come on top. I don't know if Wisconsin's going to come on top because they might not have enough games to be eligible for the Big Ten title game. Iowa may lose 5 games this season. I predicted 4, but it's looking like 5 now. Northwestern might come up with a surprise. Indiana will be. Even Purdue's on the rise. Purdue is undefeated right now. So who knows? I mean, there's a lot of things going on, and Michigan is kind of on the fence. Minnesota's a big surprise too. They've lost 2 straight, and I like PJ Fleck. He's a great head coach, but it's not looking too hot for them right now. So like one thing's been on my mind is I was at the gym the other day, and this dude, someone has to answer this question: why do people do this? They like to take like a squat rack or a bench press machine, do their weights, and then leave their weights, and then go into another machine or a station, do their weights there, and then go back to the first place they were just at. Why? Just finish your reps and go to the other one. I mean, I'm like sitting there, I'm like standing there waiting, looking like Michael Myers, just staring at him, waiting for him to get done. and then I get tired of waiting, and then I walk away, and then someone takes it. I was like, Jesus Christ. I mean, it's like annoying. I have to like wait around, and then Macho Randy Savage is having a stroke bench pressing over here. And it's like, can someone explain me why people do that? I just want to know. I'm curious because I don't like waiting at the gym. When I go to the gym, I just go in and out. The quicker I get out of the gym, the better. So that's just a little rant I had that had going on. So if you have any answers for that, please elaborate. So you know that I like to do fantasy football, and by the way, I'm getting my ass kicked in fantasy football. It's getting bad. I might take a third straight loss. I was 5-0, and I might be 5-3. So I'll have to fix that later. But I'm in another league. I'm in a Bachelorette fantasy league. That's right. I watch The Bachelorette with my girlfriend, and my other friends watch it too. And we're in this league called Batch Bracket, where you literally pick your 5 top guys, and then they get you points, or they can lose points depending on how they perform. It's really like the same concept as fantasy football. And the trick is, like, you got to pick contestants that just don't suck, don't cause drama, and that they suck up to the Bachelorette. Like, here's some ways you can get points. Your picks can get points if they get invited to dates, say cliche Bachelorette lines, stay on the show, keep going, not getting kicked off. And here's how you can lose points. You can lose points if your contestant you pick talks about their ex, talks about getting cheated on, has an ambulance called on them, and getting into fights. It's a little bit of strategy. I mean, if that's something you're interested in, I mean, I'm down to drop down a link for you to join my fantasy league. I'll have it in the description. I mean, you lock your picks every Tuesday, except this week. It'll be Thursday because the episode got moved due to election day. So you got till Thursday morning or Thursday afternoon to make your picks for this week's episode. So I mentioned a Harry Styles quote earlier in my episode, and the reason why is because I want to talk about the new Harry Styles music video that came out last week. The music video is Golden. That's the name of the song, and it came from his new album Fine Line that came out in November of last year. Did you know that he asked Stevie Nicks from Fleetwood Mac to critique his album? Him and Stevie have a real good connection going on. They've done some jam sessions, and he wanted some feedback from her. He also has taken mushrooms while recording his album. So if you listen closely, you might be able to hear what song it was. So the music video is Harry starts off, he's running away from something. My guess is he's probably running away from fans. The video takes place in an Italian coast called Amalfi Coast. As if you pay attention to the music video, very beautiful scenery. He switches from an all-white button-down to his signature pastel suit. The color of the suit is like a turquoise blue, and he's not running anymore, so maybe he lost the fans. Then he goes for a swim in a pond. Probably got sweaty from running, so he got that's what happened. He was running, he got sweaty, jumped in a pond, cleaned himself up with a quick bath, and then he jumped into his suit afterwards when he got cleaned up. Yeah, that's kind of the chronological order of the story, I think. And the music is a little funny. I mean, as he's shooting the video, you can see him waving at bystanders, just because he's just so polite. He's a friendly dude. And then he finishes up the video of him leaning on top of a random car while being friendly with the passengers in the car. And of course, they're digging it, and I'm assuming they're a little surprised that Harry Styles is on their car right now. So a little funny little bit. I like this music video. If you did not know, this song is a love song. That's Golden is a color, of course, the color gold, and he's describing this color to be the person, most likely his ex. The color gold is associated with love, compassion, courage, passion, magic, and wisdom. And the person he's describing all that is essentially the perfect being or the essence of this color. His other songs suggest that he's having an identity issue, a crisis. In the song Golden is the breakup is more complex because he's having this identity crisis. And he thinks her love is the antidote to his problems, but she's too scared to love him, and he doesn't want to feel that sense of loneliness. I really like this song. It's like a good song. You want to cruise down the interstate with the windows down, have the breeze, and have this little catchy song going on. mean, I've never really heard of a bad song from him, but this is definitely a good song from his new album. I like Harry Styles. I mean, I've been a fan of him since the One Direction days, and his his style of music fits my taste as an adult. Himself, he just promotes happiness and well-being of others. He tells you to treat people with kindness, as you should. He's just an all-around charming dude, and I don't really hear bad things about him. People say like, oh, he's just doing it for his image, or he's just acting like that just to look good in camera. Maybe, but you never hear bad things about him, and he seems pretty genuine. I hear him speak in interviews, and I mean, I've been following him for years, and I have yet to hear one bad thing from him. Before I wrap up today's show, as you all know, that it's election week, and so this is your chance to vote. It's also your chance to make a change in America. I mean, if you don't like who the current president is, or you don't like who's running for president, I mean, this is your chance to make a difference and vote them out. So, I mean, if you don't like the person, vote for the person you like best. I mean, this is the most power you have as an American, if you think about it. I mean, some people in some countries, they don't have this luxury of voting for who wants to represent their country, but you do, and I think it's important to exercise this opportunity. It's a little too late to vote by mail, but you can still in person. You can look online. You can find places where you can vote at. If you're not sure where to start or if you're registered, here's a link where you can find out, and it'll be in the description box as well. And if you're registered and you don't know where to check, here's another link in the description box too, so that way you have a good idea of where you can kind of cast your vote. So yeah, go out there and do your thing, guys. So this wraps up today's episode. Great episode as usual. I enjoy it, just kind of talking to you guys on my thoughts on sports and things that aren't sports related. I like to keep it open. I like to make this a fun experience for everybody. I mean, I'm so excited to be in my new place. I'm grateful to have good friends that helped me move into here. And yeah, I'll have another episode 2 weeks from now as usual. So stick around and make sure to like, subscribe, and share this with a friend. Until then, see you guys later.